The RAV4 appears to be a model year between 2006 and 2012, and importantly was parked at the Marsh Loop trailhead on Portsmouth Road in Concord on Monday, April 18th of 2022. So if you were the individual who's the owner of that vehicle, or if you were operating that vehicle that day, again, April 18th, 2022, and parked at the Marsh Loop trailhead on Portsmouth Road in Concord, please contact the Criminal Investigation Division at the Concord Police Department at 603-225-8600. Detectives are looking to speak with you. And while we're on that topic, detectives are also still looking to speak with any and all persons who are on the Broken Ground trails on Monday, April 18th, 2022, at any time during that day. They want to speak to anyone who was out there, regardless of whether they believe they saw anything unusual or out of the ordinary. Instead, if you were in that area, on any of the trails in that area, the Concord Police Department would like to speak to you. And I refer to the trails in that area. The trails in that area are the Howard C. Noel Trail, the Curtis Trail, the Rise Way Mountain Bike Trail, the Pond Loop, the Profile Ave Connector, and the Marsh Loop Trail, of course. If you were out on any of those trails on April 18th, 2022, and have not yet spoken to a Concord Police detective, please contact, again, the Criminal Investigation Division at 603-225-8600. In addition, please contact detectives if you parked a vehicle on April 18th, 2022 at the Curtisville Road parking lot, the Portsmouth Street lot, or anywhere along the Water Tower Access Road. That is the road that includes the gated areas near the Unitil and Eversource substations and that accesses the water tower in the area. As I hope is clear from these specific asks, our goal is to identify and speak with all persons who were in the area of the Broken Ground trails on April 18th, 2022, as they may have vital information that can help solve this case. Even individuals who were out on the trails and did not see or encounter any other individuals while on the trails still should contact the police, speak with a Concord Police detective, as they could have important information about routes that were taken or even routes that were not taken by the suspect in this matter. With that, I'll take again briefly some questions, keeping in mind, as I've cautioned before, this remains an active and ongoing investigation, so I'm limited in the information I can provide based upon our ethical rules and also in order to protect the integrity of the investigation.
Jeff, can you say what these images are? Are they from a cell phone, home surveillance, or dash cam video?
So previously, and I forget exactly when, but we made an ask for dash cam video, and we certainly appreciate the public response in that regard. Some of these images are from just that video stills from dash cam video from private citizens, as well as dash cam video from school buses that traveled through the area. And so these are all video stills.
I imagine, it's a popular trail. There were a lot of people there that day. Why specifically this vehicle?
So what investigators have been working to do is identify anyone they possibly can who was in the area that day, on those trails that day. And that includes identifying vehicles that are at trailheads and connecting them with people they've spoken to who are traveling on the trails. For this particular vehicle, we have not been able to identify or speak with anyone associated with this vehicle, and that's the import of the ask today, is specifically check another box in terms of who was out there that day and what they heard or saw or where they traveled that day, and we don't have anybody connected to this vehicle yet.
Is there a connection between the person of interest sketch and this vehicle?
No, there's no known connection between the person of interest sketch and this vehicle. No. I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Sure. Do you have a registration on this vehicle? You didn't release it, so is it New Hampshire, Massachusetts, or do you have any idea?
So what we have is what we have, and you see in these images. And so, certainly the images of the rear of the vehicle, it's not clear. If we had, a registration, if we had a license plate, I probably wouldn't be here today asking for your assistance. But the images are of the quality they are, and that's why we're asking for that help.
Real quick follow on this. Do you have a timeline on you said school buses. So school buses are on Portsmouth Street in the morning and in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have can you comment on any timeline referred to getting the vehicles there?
Yeah, the vehicle is there, generally speaking, in the afternoon that day, and which is not to say it couldn't have been there longer. But in terms of when it's captured is generally in the afternoon. I don't want to limit it too much because, again, we want whoever that owner or operator was that day, if they were there at any time of day, to come forward and speak to the police.
One more real quick one.
Mhm.
You and us have all done a lot of promotion with this. We've shown pictures and things like that. We've alerted the public to it. Are you surprised at all that anybody at this point would be lackadaisical enough to just say, oh yeah, I was there on Monday, and not already be in touch with you?
You know, I think one thing you learn in my line of work, and we see this most often, not to get off topic, but in selecting juries in murder cases, even high-profile murder cases, is there are a number of people who are so busy with their daily lives that they are not plugged in to what the news media is reporting or necessarily what's going on a day-to-day basis in their community or in nearby communities. And so certainly we believe the repetition of doing this is important, and appreciate your work in putting this message out and aiding in these asks that we're making, because people can miss it. People can be on vacation. People can be not tuned into it, because of whatever they have going on in their lives until they tune back in. And so, we've received, as you know, a number of tips with respect to this case. We've seen the public be very engaged in this case, and obviously has assisted us to varying degrees in the case. We want to keep that going and want to keep asking for that help.
How many vehicles like this are of this make and model are there?
I don't have the specific number on that at hand, but there are obviously quite a few. This is a very popular model.
Is it practical to start reaching out to those?
So certainly we're exploring all avenues, and detectives are working to exhaust all avenues to try to identify the owner or operator who was in this area at this time. And this is one of those avenues, is asking for the public's assistance in doing so. But as you mentioned, yes, there are ways to run those searches, and there are ways to start working through that list, and that's something detectives have been doing and working on.
So they are proactive?
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
So
Yep.
people who have this kind of vehicle might be getting a call from law enforcement. They shouldn't be thinking that they're being targeted if they get a call from law enforcement just because they have a similar vehicle.
Nope, not in the least. Again, the attempt is just to identify who was in this vehicle and identify where they were and what they were doing that day, as we continue to account for anyone who was in the area on April 18th, 2022.
The person of interest, the sketch that was released,
Mhm.
has that person been identified or contacted yet?
No. So we received a number of tips, a number of very helpful tips as we've released with respect to that person of interest, but those have not yet enabled us to identify or speak with the individual depicted in that sketch. And so we continue to ask for assistance with identifying that individual as well.
And with the time that has passed, can you try to quantify the number of people that have been talked to, the number of tips, just to give people a sense of the scale?
Sure. So I think at last count we've received, and as soon as the release went out earlier this morning, of course we started to receive a number of calls, and so we've received well over 200 tips into the Concord Police Department at this point. That is, the number of people that Concord detectives have spoken to far exceeds that. And that those investigative efforts obviously exist outside of just the gathering and the receipt of tip information. So this has been a wide-scale investigation, and continues to be so on a daily basis. Very active, very much ongoing. I know the chief could speak to that, but I speak with detectives on a daily basis with respect to this case, and so it remains the top priority, as I understand it, at the Concord Police Department. And certainly we have a number of cases at my office, but very much a top priority at my office to continue to work this.
Chief, do you have a message, for folks in the city about this? We're pushing the 3-month mark since this happened. It's been a few weeks since that sketch has come out, no new leads. Are you hopeful you'll get something with it?
Yeah, so my message is, I think the community should be confident that we are making this the highest priority. We have a core group of investigators that are solely devoting all of their efforts on this particular case. We encourage people, that's why we're here today, encourage people to call us, even if they think that they have nothing or something trivial to provide. We want to talk to everybody because something is going to develop, and we're really hopeful that the community will help us in this case.